Hello, everyone, and welcome to Elevating Your Life. This is Paula Vail, and I have a fantastic guest with us today. Oh my gosh, we have Padma Prakasha. And Padma is a wisdom author, vibrational media creator, and public speaker, bringing together ancient wisdom and modern science. Padma's books, music, and multimedia are drawn from the traditions he has been initiated into. He is a master of vibrational medicine through sound, translating the art and science of vibration to create moving and alchemical immersions. A globally distributed music producer who performs worldwide. His TV work involved co-discovering the first mummified Tibetan Lama for Mystery of the Tibetan Mummy on the Discovery Channel and narrating the Peabody Winner documentary, Sounds of the Soul. As a multimedia producer, Padma created original music and visual content based on global sacred sites for the Moscow Youth Olympics, and the One Project, which played in theaters and festivals in the UK, USA, and New Zealand. He is currently creating a meditation app for children called LightLearners. You are just a light in the world, Padma. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh, I'm so thrilled. Well, I would love to begin with having you share some information. We'll start with your amazing book, Shiva's Hologram, the Maheshwar Sutra. I hope I pronounced that correctly. But anyway, I loved it. Such a great book. Tell us about that and kind of what brought that on.
Well, the Maheshwar Sutra is a very ancient and rare sutra that has only just been released from outside of India. And it shares how the entire creation is formed through sound. But it does so in a very systematic and scientific way in the spiritual science of consciousness. So it's probably the clearest exposition from all the sacred traditions of how the world has been systematically created through sound. And not just through sound, but through the meanings or creative functions that each sound represents or each sound means. So I'm sure a lot of people would be aware of the dancing Shiva who dances the universe into destruction. But what most people don't know is that after the dance of destruction comes a recreation or the resurrection, so to speak. And this resurrection comes about through sound. So once the old humanity and the old earth, the old corrupted humanity or the ignorance is destroyed, then there comes Earth and human being version 2.0. It's almost like a remix or upgrade of the old humanity and the old earth into the divine blueprint or the divine matrix. So this is what the Maheshwara Sutra very clearly talks about, is how this new human being or divine human being arises out of the ashes, almost like a phoenix, but arises out of the ashes of the destruction of the old corrupt world and the old wear and tear of humanity to bring us into a new form or elevated form or upgraded form. And so I call that version 2.0. And I feel like this is such a perfect time for this wisdom to come out, because this sutra is 2,200 years old, but it's been kept in the Vedic Indian tradition for 2,200 years. And it's only been kept within certain initiatic circles. So it's been kept quite secret and hidden, and not much has been revealed about it. But of course, all the Indian masters, particularly connected to sound, were all aware of it. So whenever I go to India, all adepts, initiates, and masters all know about this sutra, but they don't really talk about it, or they don't really have much to share about it to people from the outside or people from the West. So I just feel like it's an amazing and such a synchronous time to reveal this wisdom, this alchemical and transformative wisdom to the world at this time when everything seems to be crashing down around us in a corruption and a war. The greed and the ignorance seems to be at like fever pitch at the moment, and I'm sure it will continue to be so. So I just feel like it's such an amazing timing, divine timing, that this book and the wisdom within it comes out right now in 2023, 2024.
And I mean, there is so much amazing wisdom that we can learn and we can take into our lives, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we are all sound, we are all frequency. So once we know how to change the sounds that we are made of and the frequencies that we're tuning into, then life takes on a whole new hue. You know, like there's a whole new game to life, because we then have the power to change the frequencies we're resonating at, the frequencies that are coming into us, and the frequencies that we're putting out. So there's a whole science behind this, and it's simple, but it's very important to know what sounds or what combinations of sounds you should make in order to create a particular outcome that you want in your life. If you just make random sounds, maybe you'll just get random results. But if you know what you're doing, and there's a very real clarity behind that, then the sounds that you make can really create the outcomes or the results or the desires that you want to manifest in the world and in your life and in your relationships, and how you are evolving as well.
The book, you say that speech is our most powerful tool to create with. I love that. Tell us a bit more about that and what that means. You referred to opening the throat chakra. Tell us about that.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, in the Vedic, in Indian tradition, we see that the word, as you call it in the Bible, in the beginning was a word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. And then from that word, from that sound, the universe was created. So that's the biblical version. But in India, it's exactly the same. But it's also understood that that word, or the voice of the divine, or the voice of God that created everything, that voice is also our voice once we tune into that. So we are made in the image of God. Again, to use another biblical analogy, but we are made as a hologram in the image of God. And our voices have the capacity and are inbuilt with the capacity to emulate the creator's voice, to replicate that word, to resonate with that word, and to express it here on earth as part of the divine blueprint. And so that's, in India, this is seen as a whole cycle of creation, you know, coming from the formless into form. And what brings everything into form is the voice. So from the invisible worlds, from the quantum worlds, how do we bring that into form? So in the Indian tradition, it was a Brahma who sang everything into existence. In the Egyptian tradition, it was Thoth, or Pa, who sounded everything from nothing into something. And in the Kabbalistic Western tradition, it's Adam. Adam sings everything into being, into existence, into manifestation from nothing. So all these sacred traditions are all saying the same thing. But in India, it's seen as, it's very explicitly said that we have that power. Each and every human being has that power to tune into, emulate, echo the word, the creator's voice, the voice of God. And we all have that within us. But how do we do that? So the Maheshwara Sutra gives very clear instructions of how to do that. What sounds create what in existence, and then what that means and how that applies to us. So then we really have the full understanding of what each sound is, what it does, and how we can use it. And most importantly, how we can use each sound to manifest what we need, what we want, what we desire, but then also to accelerate our evolution, which I think is the most important part, to rapidly accelerate our evolution into the divine blueprint, into the divine will, into the divine plan, or into that, the harmony, the universal harmony, to use another word.
Yes, yes. And so how does music and those types of sounds, and for example, crystal healing bowl, myself, I have one of those I love to play, and I just, so many different things out there, beautiful sounds. So what does having those in our lives, what does that create for us and open up?
Well, for example, in both the Indian and Kabbalistic traditions, it's seen that there are 4 different ways of making sound. And so one of the ways is through singing bowls and music and musical instruments. And that all fits into the same category as poetry, particularly mystical poetry, things like Reiki, the symbols of Reiki, healing symbols, and so on. So all of that is seen as one category or mode of sound, which is great because that's the second mode of sound. So it takes us from the linear, rational third dimension and those, making those types of sounds, which are also picture-based as well, immersing in those kinds of vibrational frequencies or vibrational pictures, then opens us up and expands us into the intuitive or like the dreamlike world of the imagination, the more feminine as opposed to the more masculine, kind of structured, third dimensional. This is all there is, this table, this body is all there is kind of mentality. So that's the first mode of sound. But the second mode of sound involves these picture-based. So anything that creates a picture in your mind is also a vibration. So sound is not just what we hear and what we speak. It also extends into all these other categories of vibration. So yeah, that's the second mode of sound. And then the third mode of sound is when one becomes really focused into a singularity. So one becomes very one-pointed, very one-focused. And when you do that, everything opens up inside you, but the focus has to be very intense, almost like a laser in your third eye, so to speak. When that happens, then big openings happening in your nervous system. So that's like the third mode of sound. And that's where the mystical revelations happen. So parts of the Bible, a lot of Buddhism, a lot of Hinduism, a lot of the Kabbalah was revealed in this kind of ecstatic state. And then the fourth mode of sound, which is the beginning, is silence. So everything in creation is a sound, but then all sounds, the ultimate purpose of all sounds for us as humans is to enter the silence or the source or the divine, let's say, that silence from where everything came from. So from that silence, all sounds can come forth. And we can use those sounds in particular patterns to ride a wave, so to speak, into that source of existence, that source of creation, that silence from which everything arises from.
Oh my gosh, isn't that just so beautiful and so wonderful? Just takes your breath away. It's so wonderful. And I have to share myself, I love my morning mantras. In your book, you mentioned mantras are vibratory remedies giving you the frequencies you need. Mantras open chakras and disturb the course of disease as well as preventing it.
Yeah.
Wow. Share a little more about that. That is just fantastic.
Yeah, I've healed quite a few things in my body-mind system just using sound and energy. Like I ripped my knee meniscus and I was told I'd had to have surgery and I just healed it with sound. I did the same with many other parts of me on emotional, spiritual, mental levels as well. So it works on every single level, sound, depending on how you apply it, obviously. And it's got to be specific to what the cause is. So for example, when my knee meniscus snapped and I was told I had to go to hospital by a doctor, I looked into the emotional cause of it. And once I discovered that, then I could emotionally heal it and use the specific sounds for that to heal my knee meniscus. And I healed it within 2 weeks or something. And my doctor friend was quite amazed, because once you snap a knee meniscus, you're supposed to be on crutches for weeks and supposed to have surgery to heal it. Mm-hmm. But I wasn't on crutches for weeks, and I healed it within 2 weeks. So, yes. Yeah. So you can heal things that are already broken, but then diseases that are just starting, or even diseases that have already started, if you know what you're doing, you can focus that sound to actually disrupt the course or the cellular generation of that disease. So, for example, there's been quite a few scientific studies of this. So quite a well-known sound healer in Europe called Fabian Mama did this experiment with cancer cells, in which they exposed it to certain resonant frequencies. And they found that within 9 minutes of using vocal frequencies, the cancer cells started to break up. And by using musical instruments, it took 14 to 15 minutes to break up those cancer cells. So again, it was through the voice that was the most potent and the fastest way of disrupting, one of the deadliest diseases that's on the planet at the moment. And there was another group of scientists who did a similar experiment as well, but using more technological frequencies, so frequencies coming out of technology. So, very set frequencies. And that worked as well, but it didn't work as well as a voice, and it didn't work as fast as a voice, and didn't work as fast as the musical instruments that were tuned to the certain frequency, resonant frequency.
And so this can be done with the sound of words or the sound of music, all different avenues.
Yeah, it has to be diagnosed properly, first of all, and then the right frequency and sounds and words and mantras have to be applied to that area. So yeah, then it works. Yeah, and it's worked for many, many people. I've just given a few examples, but there's countless thousands of others who have experienced, profound healing through sound. But then also there's transformation through sound, which is the most interesting part, I feel. I mean, healing is important, but the actual transformation you can achieve in your consciousness through using particular sounds or mantras is the most profound use of sound, because then that it can bring you into a very blissful state. It can bring you into a state where huge chunks of karmic residue or suffering can be just destroyed. But also, and ultimately and most beautifully, it takes you into that silence within the heart. And that silence within the heart is the source of everything. So in that silence in the heart, using sound to enter that silence is a very fast way of doing that if you're ripe and ready to do that.
So are there a couple example mantras you might like to give the audience that you recommend, or just to give them an idea of maybe where they could start?
Yeah, I feel like there's lots of mantras that people can use, and that's nice, but in the courses that I run, for example, I attune or initiate people into those sounds and mantras. And that makes a huge difference, huge difference. If you just go on the internet or read a book and there's a mantra there and you start sounding it, sure, you can feel something. But when you receive it from someone who's a master of it or been initiated into it and has embodied that, let's say, and then transmit that frequency to you, it's a whole nother ball game. It's a whole nother octave to play with. And that's where the transformation really comes in, is when, first of all, when you're initiated into a mantra, and secondly, when that mantra is really specific to you, like it's your custom-made mantra or mantra that is specifically for where you are in this moment in time. And then that will make the most sense for a person to use rather than a general mantra that you pick up somewhere on the internet or something like that. Because there's literally millions of mantras, in many languages: Sanskrit, Aramaic, Hebrew, Tibetan, Arabic. There's so many mantras, but there's only a few of them that are actually ever present. So what I mean by that is that when certain mantras are understood to be ever present in all of creation. So right now, there's certain sound currents or sound waves that are moving through the earth, through your body, through your nervous system, through your soul, and they are there already. And those are the ones that would be best for you to tune into and tap into, because they're the easiest to surf. They're the easiest to ride. They are the easiest to dissolve into. So then you become the mantra. So there are universal patterns of mantra, but there are also very specific mantras for individuals that are perfect for that individual, rather than using a generalized mantra, which can have some effect, but there's much more powerful ways of doing it that have been done for many thousands of years and that work really potently.
And that is something we can connect with you on your website, and you can work with us on that.
Sure, yeah, I lead courses once or twice a year on this. And also in the book, Shiva's Hologram, the Maheshwara Sutra, I show you how to actually combine sounds to make your own mantra. But you do that in a way because you're really well informed from the book of what each sound means and what it does. So then you have the wisdom and the knowledge to be able to create your own mantras, compose your own mantras. They'll be perfect for you to boost certain things or balance certain things, or to bring certain frequencies to you that you're not very good with, or to like lessen other frequencies that maybe you have too much of, or that you're too immersed in. So the book is really good for that. But the most powerful way is Shiva's Hologram course, in which I lead groups of people through the sounds and the mantras, and that has proved to be very powerful. And a lot of people have shared that in reviews on the website and so on about what it does, how powerful it has been to change and transform their own consciousness. That
is amazing. Please share with everyone your website address for those that are listening today.
Yes, so it's padmaaon.com. So PADMAAON.com. So padmaaon.com. And on there is all kinds of interesting stuff, lots of videos, lots of free music that I've made, lots of interviews, articles, courses, and so on. So all kinds of interesting things to play with there.
Oh, so who do you recommend reads your book, and what do you believe is some of the biggest benefits they're going to gain from that?
I think anyone who has always understood or felt or intuited that vibration and sound is the basis of the universe, if you're interested in that, then you would love this book. If you're into yoga or sound healing, you would love this book. If you're into spirituality, the science of consciousness, if you're into the Vedic philosophy, if you're into quantum physics and how ancient Indian wisdom merges together, that's definitely a part of it. If you're into the science of creation, how creation is formed, how creation is composed, both from a philosophical, spiritual, and scientific viewpoint, then you'll really like it. If you're into the understanding of spiritually how the divine has created the cosmos, then you'll really enjoy it too, because I really merged all those different perspectives together into what I believe is a very readable and 21st century understanding of it all. And yeah, and I feel like all those people, all those kinds of people will be interested in reading the book. And I think for me, I'm a very practical person. So for me, the purpose, the ultimate purpose of all of this is to transform your consciousness, to raise your vibration, raise your frequency, raise it into the divine blueprint, the divine matrix. And that's the biggest takeaway from the book, and of course that comes with it, and that's online as well, is that then you can practically use the tools in order to transform yourself and raise your vibration out of where it is at the moment. Or even if you're in a good place at the moment, hey, guess what? You can raise it even further. Yeah, there's no limit to the infinite.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We have about 2 minutes left. Please share what last words you want to share with everyone today. This has been so great.
You are a collection, a composition, a symphony of sounds, all working together in harmony some of the time. And at other times, your symphony is not quite working. You know, there's chords and notes that are missing. The bass is too much, and the higher frequencies are a bit muffled. Sometimes the higher frequencies are really high and beautiful, but there's no bass, there's no grounding. So you are a living, walking symphony of beauty and love, all intertwined in this glorious divine blueprint and matrix. That's who you are. So do you want to return to that and embody that fully here on earth, here now, in your body, walking the talk, walking that light on earth, as they say in ancient Egyptian, Te e ton ra, walk in the light. So you are that, that's who you are. You just have to remove the veils or vibration that are cloaking your consciousness from fully recognizing who you are and who everyone else is.
Yeah.
So that's all vibration, that's all sound. So by going directly into the vibrations, into the sounds of it, you can get there very fast and very directly without the mind getting involved or without thoughts getting involved. Just go there direct, go there swiftly, cut through the veils and get to the core, the cause of everything, which is this vibrating universe of waves that we're all living in every single moment.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is so inspiring and informative and exciting. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, this has been great. Oh, my goodness. To everyone out there, love, hugs, and blessings. Thank you for joining us. Padma, thank you so much for joining us. Love, hugs, and blessings. Oh.